Hi, this is Dr. Robert Norman talking about successful aging.
Let's talk about something very interesting to me. I've been spending more and more time on this in the last decade or so about aging. Some of our research in our group belongs to the realm of the skin-brain connection. We were one of the first groups to report the connection between melanoma and Parkinson's disease. And we're doing a lot of research in this area. I just returned from giving talks at St. Luis Potosi in Mexico with researchers that I work with there on this subject of the skin and the brain. I find it endlessly fascinating. I also feel like dementia is one of our most important subjects and one of the greatest public health emergencies. So let's talk about the foundation for this, and this is that the elderly population is growing dramatically, continues to grow at an unprecedented rate. 8.5% of people worldwide are age 65 and over, and according to a relatively new report, the percentage is projected to jump to nearly 17% of the population by 2050. That'll be 1.6 billion people. More than three-quarters of this population is in still developing countries, which will be home to more than two-thirds of the world's older population, which is approximately 1.1 billion in 2050. In 2018, for the first time in history, persons aged 65 or above outnumbered children under 5 years of age globally. And the number of persons aged 80 or over is projected to triple from 143 million in 2019 to 426 million in 2050. So here's a slide that shows the world population, and it goes all the way from number one, China at this moment, all the way down to Mexico. India and China will probably be changing places soon because China is basically there. More people are dying than being born essentially in China right now, and that's what's happening. Number of people worldwide 65 years and older, selection of various countries. You can see the greatest amount 65 and over is Japan, and they do tremendous work in taking care of their elderly population, have many more provisions for them than we do here. Germany, Italy, Greece, Sweden, all the way down to the United States, and then China. Highest concentration of 65 plus here in the States, number one, where I'm talking to you from, is Florida, about 17.6% of the state population. Then down the line is Pennsylvania and then West Virginia. Impact of healthy lifestyle factors on life expectancy in the U.S. population. So although we're one of the wealthiest nations worldwide, we have a shorter life expectancy compared with residents of almost all other high income countries, ranking 31st in the world for life expectancy at birth. We were ranked first in the world for health expenditures as a percent of gross domestic product. But the US healthcare system is focused primarily on drug discoveries and disease treatment rather than prevention, so that chronic diseases such as CVD and cancer are most common and costly of all the health problems, even though many of them are largely preventable. It's been widely acknowledged that unhealthy lifestyles are a major risk factor for various chronic diseases and premature death. So there's five main things in terms of lifestyle-related factors, and trying to be adherent to these low-risk factors is important. Never smoking, healthy weight, regular physical activity, healthy diet, and moderate alcohol consumption can prolong life expectancy when you reach 50 years of age by 14 and 12.2 for females and males, compared with individuals who adopted zero low-risk lifestyle factors. Americans could lower this life expectancy gap, and so could other industrialized countries by adopting this healthier lifestyle. Prevention should be a top priority for national health policy, and preventive care should be an indispensable part of the U.S. healthcare system. So what are some of the findings right now in aging? This is a fascinating topic and growing in intensity daily. So what's next? Most of the information on population and aging is based on data that's been accumulated and is now being projected like an enormous flashlight into the future. One of the books I read in preparation for my recent talks is Successful Aging by Daniel Levitin, which is a wonderful book. Um, Talks about various advances in aging, including new gene therapies, including somatic gene therapy and blocking or modifying gene expression. Metabolic expressions of genes can be changed and utilized to help stop aging, and we have to consider this when we are looking at overcoming these processes and seeing what's ahead. So aging in modern society has engendered countless conflicting opinions. Uh, Historically, when you think about it, our bodies evolved and grew to an age of survival just past the child rearing years and then was not particularly useful. But with advances in aging, we live far beyond the earlier times in our existence. From an evolutionary view, if we live into old age, we are competing for limited food and other resources that will continue to be more limited over time. We each have about 1 million genetic variants. As we gain more ability to revitalize our health and expand our longevity through genetic manipulation and through changes and preventive care, we'll be able to face more decisions about our destiny as to what really makes us human, and we work to save the planet at the same time from forces of destruction. We're looking at artificial intelligence. Many of the articles that you read are about this, including cybernetics and deep learning and machine learning and robotics and neural networks. There are some groups that deal with what they call the trans world, in which they're adding more brain implants and other things into our bodies to try to start with this transition. Now, with advances in aging, we add on and expand our experience, as I mentioned, with AI and virtual reality, incorporating all our senses for augmented reality. And hopefully will enhance human intelligence and longevity and disease prevention capability by using nanotechnology and other factors to extend our brains and our bodies by directly interfacing our biological systems with human created technology. So there'll be a more and more of a marriage occurring there. Now, there are many, many challenges, of course, and many ethical challenges with this. One of the biggest challenges I mentioned before that we face is dementia. The biggest breakthrough in this is that it's not looked on as much as an old car that breaks down and needs repair, that we can self-repair and overcome disease. And the goal is to stay just as healthy in your 60s and 70s and 80s as you were in your 20s and 30s. It's about health span as much as it is lifespan, that you stay healthy for longer times of your life. Reserve is really a key thing in terms of cognitive aging. That the brain reserve refers to differences in the brain structure that may increase tolerance to pathology. And cognitive reserve refers to individual differences in how tasks are performed that may allow some people to be more resilient than others. So this has an incredible promise in terms of intervention and slowing cognitive aging and helping protect against dementia. So how can you increase your cognitive reserve? That's a key question. So there are many studies that suggest that lifelong experiences, including educational occupational attainment, which many of you have mastered, and leisure activities in later life can increase this reserve. The risk of developing Alzheimer's disease is reduced in individuals with higher educational occupational attainment. So you want to keep learning and working and staying active is a key to increasing your cognitive reserve. Again, another book is Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to by David Sinclair. I'll talk about him more. Another book I read in preparation for these talks. There's some key advances that they found in aging, and they go by these various initials, NR, NMN, and NAD. There's also the sirtuin enzymes. Everyone has 7 sets of these, and what happens is these activated through genetic structures and the enzymes that create these reactions that help with aging. I'll talk about that in a little more detail. The sirtuins can counteract at least 6 hallmarks of organismal aging: neurodegeneration, chronic but ineffective inflammatory response, metabolic syndrome, DNA damage, genome instability, and cancer incidence. Now, you can feed this NAD boosters to animals to build new blood vessels in the body and also decreases toxins. By the age of 50, you only have about half the amount of sirtuin you did at 20. So these chemical reactions over time can make us slower and less effective. The idea is to replace that with sirtuin and some of the byproducts to help keep some more robust nature within your life and age longer and stay healthier longer. Here's a diagram that goes through this in terms of signaling pathways that maintain health and extend lifespan. It's a fascinating slide here because, as you can see, it also includes things like metformin and rapamycin, which many of you read about. That metformin helps increase longevity. It also talks here or describes here about calorie description and highlights high fat, high sugar, and sedentary lifestyle, how changes occur, and also down to how it affects DNA repair, stress resistance, and other items. So it's a condensed slide, but an effective presentation of what goes on within aging and some of the new input. NMN and related chemical NR can protect against diabetes, hearing, memory, and eyesight loss, and wound healing. It's really the closest thing to reversal of aging. It acts like a super vitamin. Let's talk about a little bit about super agers, because this is a fascinating subject. This Alex Trudeau, who researches this, talks about a particular person who's 93. Her eyes shine, she's electric, every brain cell is active, she's addicted to learning, on her 12th degree, obviously classic superager. So I'll talk a little bit about the 4 habits of superagers and how to help protect yourself from dementia and your patients. There's a neuroscientist, Emily Rogalski, has done a lot of work on this. There's a superaging study at Northwestern University in Chicago. The key is that they're 80 and older, but they exhibit cognitive function that's comparable to an average middle-aged individual. And the brain volume of these individuals have also been tested through MRI, and they measured the thickness of the cortex in 24 superagers and 12 members of a control group. Now, with normal aging adults, we lose approximately 2.24% of our brain volume each year, but superagers only lost about 1.06%. So what happens is if they lose the brain volume less slowly, it may be more protective for a longer lifespan, but also protective against dementia. So one of the habits of superagers is they stay active. Physical activity increases oxygen intake, which helps the body perform optimally at exercising your heart, strengthens the muscles, and also decreases the chances of dementia. And here's a woman, Agnes Kalidi, who is who turned 100. She's the oldest living Olympic champion and Holocaust survivor. Obviously a superager. They continue to challenge themselves. That's one of the common habits. Mental activities as well as physical activities. They try to read new articles, take on new languages, do all kinds of things to stimulate the brain by engaging in these new behaviors. So superagers tend to report strong social relationships with others. This is one of the most fascinating aspects that I found researching superagers. There's an attention region deep in the brain called VENs, or von Economo neurons, named after the researcher who found this. These are large spindly neurons, and they're thought to play a role in social processing and awareness. And they found out in these superagers, they're more, as I like to use the word robust, as you know, they are more robust, they're more active, and it's an interesting sort of chicken or egg phenomenon versus egg phenomenon to me, is that were these VNs larger, and then that makes them have sort of more of a thirst for social interaction, or a social interaction has a cycle that increases the size of these. I think it's a really important subject, and I think as we, especially the younger people, get more involved with various issues such as hypervigilance, being on the computer and their phones and everything for longer periods of time, we have to think about socialization. And if they decrease that, what effect that will have on these VENs if there's a feedback process there. The bottom line is if socialization is an important part of super aging, we have to keep that in mind and make sure we continue this process. Superagers do indulge. That's one of the categories. They have a little bit of alcohol in general, everything in moderation, but they're less likely to develop Alzheimer's or have signs of memory problems than the non-drinkers. But of course, if they overdo it, they're going to have more problems. A positive attitude about aging can boost health. People that have a positive attitude about growing old tend to live longer and they're healthier. And if they decrease the negative thoughts about aging, that also helps. There's a massive study of 14,000 adults over 50 from the Harvard School of Public Health and found that these people who had the highest satisfaction with aging had a 43% lower risk of dying overall over a 4-year period that they were studied compared to those who were least satisfied. So there's also something called the stereotype embodiment theory. What this does is it states that age stereotypes are internalized, activated, and work through multiple pathways to influence people's health and well-being. So again, people who believe poor health is inevitable with age, it's somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It prevents them from engaging in healthy behaviors. All of you know patients you've seen will go, well, I'm too old anyhow, doc. It's not going to really change anything. Well, that's part of this theory. Physiological pathways, such as exposure to negative stereotypes, heightens the cardiovascular stress response. And the behavioral processes, such as poor sleep quality, can affect many things, including the preventive health care that will help them to have a healthier lifespan. The study also found that people more satisfied with aging had a lower risk for conditions such as diabetes, stroke, cancer, and heart disease, better cognitive functioning, and more likely to engage in physical activity, less lonely and depressed, and more optimistic people had a greater sense of purpose and helped them live longer. So as stated here by Eric Kim, there's a connection between mindsets and health behavior. One leads to the other. Positive attitude about aging can boost health. And he reiterates what I just mentioned, that these rejecting negative stereotypes about aging, such as the idea that poor physical health is inevitable, can help you to live longer. And joining clubs, being part of the community, staying less lonely, and being active can make a huge difference. Now, this is somewhat of a tongue-in-cheek slide that many of you have probably seen before, but it's talking about aging successfully, a guide to health promotion. So prior to being born, you should choose long-lived parents. You should have your mother get regular checkups, have your mother not smoke or drink alcohol, and make sure she takes prenatal vitamins, including folate. And then from 0 to 20, exercising, avoiding obesity, one factor after another is listed here. Many of you know that, including getting your vaccinations. Then let's shift up to 60 to 80 and 80 plus years. These are guides to health promotion over lifespans. This is really important, including in the 80 plus years, to continue those things and exercising and fighting against those embodiment theories that make people not live as long. So there are many approaches to maintaining vitality. Some of these are here: use it or lose it, seeking help for depression, grief, loneliness. You can see this category, eating in moderation, which you're aware of. And then the next would be making sure, if you are going to use supplements, make sure it's been investigated, you've consulted your doctor about it. Treating the problems that you do have is key. We're getting towards the end of the presentation, and I do want to talk about a subject that I also find quite fascinating. Hopefully you will too. The idea about IQ, EQ, and CQ. IQ, as we know, stands for intellectual quotient and refers to mental ability. IQ does affect a wide variety of real-world outcomes, such as job performance and objective career success. EQ stands for emotional quotient. and concerns our ability to perceive, control, and express emotions. Individuals with a higher EQ are less susceptible to stress and anxiety. Since complex situations are resourceful and demanding, they are likely to induce pressure and stress. But people with a high EQ seem to have EQ as a buffer for them. Now, it's a key ingredient of interpersonal skills. That means that people with higher EQ are better equipped to navigate complex organizational politics and advances in their careers. And even in today's hyper-connected world, which I talked about earlier, with it being on the screen for too long and too much time on the phone, what most employers look for is not technical expertise in some cases, but soft skills, especially when it comes to management and leadership roles. So people with a higher EQ tend to be more entrepreneurial, more productive, exploiting opportunities, taking risks, turning creative ideas into actual innovations. All this makes EQ an important quality for adapting to uncertain, unpredictable, and complex environments. CQ, one of my favorites, stands for curiosity quotient. It concerns having a hungry mind. People with higher CQ are more inquisitive and open to new experiences. They find novelty exciting and are quickly bored with routine. Now, Einstein said, I have no special talents, I'm only passionately curious. I'm not sure about that, but I do know that he was incredibly curious about many, many things, and that we have shown that studies have shown that having a high IQ, EQ, and especially CQ can increase longevity, definitely make you more interested, compassionate about life, and also make you look forward to aging and learning more, which, as I mentioned before about the embodiment theory, a higher interest in life and learning can help you live longer. So George Burns said, you can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. The world population age 60 and over, again, to reiterate, this is a pretty amazing factor. It's going up like this, the least developed countries the most, and we have to think about this very carefully, that we are, by the year 2050, we're going to have a much older population, so we need to be aware of this, and for us and our students and our children. So we need your help with this, helping with this big population shift. And our time has come as far as caring for the aging boomers. This is really a key time. Whatever specialty or whatever work you do, we're needing help with this unprecedented demographic shift. We need to be at the top in providing specialized care and healthcare delivery for older adults. So you are the future. We live in a time with its increase in global aging. We must make important decisions for our health and our future. Investigating the concept of how we age is a complex, challenging, and urgent task. And you are the leaders of the future. We need your energy, your training, and everything else you can provide to help us with this. This is my email. I appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.